Okay, now my vision of this bench was not only to be a saw bench, but also to be a woodworking bench, like a joining bench that I could use in the woods if I wanted to, or at a show or whatever, and also to be a shave horse. And so I've taken a piece of 2x6 here, and I just put a regular hinge on the back. Not sure I'm going to leave that hinge on there. I may just put a solid stop on the back of this thing and use that instead, because I think I want to be able to get this completely off of here. I got to think about that, but it's a learning process. Then I've got here just a piece of 4x6 that I have laying around, and this is called a cheese block. And this was one of the differences between the European Bodgers type shave horse and the ones that I see used in the US a lot. If this can be removed from the bench, and this is not solid to the bench, doesn't go through the bench, then that allows a lot more versatility, because this thing just slides up in here and can be adjusted for angle here, and it's not going to move. So we can adjust this back and forth depending on the angle we want on our work. And then we'll have to have our locking device, but our locking device will just be a drilled hole through here with all thread. And then we'll have like 1 inch material here holding it down and 1 inch material at the bottom for pushing on it to create that vicing action. But if all of this can be removed and that all thread can just be pulled out of there, or it's just a driven pin of some sort in there, then that makes this much more versatile, because it won't always be a shaving bench, it won't always be a saw bench, and it won't always be a joining bench. So I've got to think about that for a minute and think about how I want to do this portion while I'm working on this. But this cheese block is what's used to adjust your work up and down as you sit astride the bench. You lay your work on this and then draw knife it from up here. Okay, so we've got our piece of all thread driven through here. Now we need to set up the vicing and pushing part, and we're going to use a 1x4 for that, I think. What we need to figure out is the length of this 1x4. What's going to happen is it's going to swing forward like this and push a dowel rod down on top of this block, basically. So if we want it forward to there, we want it touching our block there, and we need to leave room for the dowel. We're probably going to need it about this long. And again, I'm not real good at patterning things. I just kind of eyeball them as I go. So I'm going to make a mark there. Then I'm going to measure that and see how long that is. And I'm going to round it off. That's 33 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut 2 of them at 34. It's better to cut it too long the first time than too short. So we'll cut 2 3-foot pieces of this, and we'll go from there. Alright, so we just drilled 5/8 holes in these, and I just eyeballed the measurement lengthwise to make sure I got that right. And then I rounded again, and I did that 18 inches from the top, which is pretty close to the center, actually. It worked out that way. Now I've got to figure out where I want to put drill my pilot holes here to put my dowel rodding through. That's going to clamp down my wood. So when this is pushed down and clamping on wood, I'm figuring about 6 inches down is going to do it. So I'm going to mark each one of these 6 inches and then center it, and then drill a hole for my dowel rod. Okay, so now we basically drilled down that 6 inches on the one side and 4 inches on the other side. And what that's going to do is that's going to let these sit on this bench like this. Again, we're going to put a positive stop here. Now what we'll do is we'll put dowel rods cut to length through here like this. And I'm just shoving these in here right now to show you what we're doing. I'm not trying to make it right necessarily right now. Okay, we'll get these evened up, and then we'll put dowel rods in this other side. Shove them in there far enough so you can see what we're doing here, okay? Now, once we got a positive stop here, we adjust our block here, our cheese block, and then when we push in on this side, it's going to lock our piece in. So when we've got our positive stop here, let's say we want to put a piece of stock in here to draw knife. Now we push on this bottom part with our foot. And of course, like I said, this will be all shored up, these will be even, and all of this stuff will be locked in place, but this shows you what's going to happen. The pushing action down here with your foot or your feet is going to lock it in up here, and once we have a positive stop here, it won't be able to move, and that's going to give us a positive lock here on our bodger's bench. So let's get this a little more shored up and straightened up, and then we'll get back at it. All right, so now we have added adjustment holes to our uprights where our 1.25 inch dowel is going to go through to lock our work down, and also where our all thread goes through so that we can adjust the height depending on the work that we're working on. We also shortened our long platform board, our anvil board, by 4 inches, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. Okay, so there's no doubt what we got works as a bodger's bench or a makeshift shave horse. Now we need to think about it as a joining bench or joinery.